6 became the 9, became the 3. Let's go! You're a hero now, you know too much to walk on by. Souls don't lie. From the ashes you came reborn. The fire that licks the soul, that's you! Let's go! Hug yourself, reach deep within. The soul is the pin that holds it all. Ignite. You are a miracle, babe. The real deal in the flesh. Soul of steel, sent to heal and be done with all the rest. Love you are, and love you will remain as you gain. You are the witness, God's true form, the source of us all. Let yourself fall. Down, down, down. But where'd you go? Does anyone know? It's all right back to you.
You are the God, the one supreme. Your reign is seen. You are the savior we all need. You are the God, don't ever you forget. Not again, not with a pen. Write down your soul's longings. They call to come out, they don't have any doubts. Only wounds and pains you need to heal. So do not fear. Cry we do, the souls cry to be heard. They won't speak a word until you quiet your mind and listen. Heart cries. Don't give in until hear the whispers within. Do not fear, for you are here, a savior sent for our redemption, for our protection. You have God's permission. You can live without resistance. Stick to your persistence. We are guaranteed to win. You're a hero now, you know too much to walk on by. Souls don't lie. From the ashes you came reborn. The fire that licks the soul, that's you.
Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's Transcending Ascension podcast. Here with you live with Samantha Consciously, one of my good friends now, and so happy to have her on again. I just love just talking to her. The energy that's created and the wisdom that, like, our open throats, which we'll get into human design, help us spring through. It's such an experience just to be with her. So thank you so much for being here today, Samantha.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. To give it up.
Yes, yeah. It helps everyone unpack it because human design, it's one of those things where people kind of throw away, especially I find in the circles we come around in, because we're in a very, I want to say, pragmatic spiritual circle where we didn't go full woo, although obviously we believe in lots of normal people would, but there's a difference.
We've lost you again. Oh, bloody hell. We are in quite a pragmatic group, got to say. Hello, Stephen. Thank you for popping in and saying hello. Yeah, she did say there's probably going to be an issue with the internet because it's through the day and she lives in the middle of BF nowhere. She's been a little while though. Are you back, Diana?
Yeah, I was saying we're a very grounded crew. And speaking of which, I finally ordered that Ethernet cable to see if it'll help my internet. I don't think so. It's why I've been putting it off, but I'm going to manifest that it will. because we do believe in manifestation here. And that all becomes a lot clearer when we're dealing with our specific design. So that brings us to our human design charts. We'll dive into Samantha's and we'll take off from there. So let me get the screen sharing going. And sorry, wet table. My son uses this for a dumping area. So the mouse is...
It's all right if you sort of state of mind. Honestly, I've got all sorts on this. I need to really get a proper place because we're in serious podcasters now, me and Kirsten, you know.
How is that going? Tell me about it while I look for this.
It's all right. I'm finding out there's a lot more to it than it looks like. I got this idea in my head. I'm like, right, we're gonna do the metaphysical fat. We're just gonna talk like we're just sat in the living room having a cup of tea, and it never really works out like that, does it? Actually, because then you start getting people in with more information, and it's learning how to manage the energy flows, feeling when it's shifting, trying to keep people on topic, trying to keep myself on topic mostly, because that's the hardest one. Continuing to listen, because sometimes people talk and I'm like, and then I've got ADHD brain, obviously, we talked about this before, haven't we? And I'm like, I've got 15 different things going on in my head, and I'm there's a lot of plates to spin, really. I mean, luckily there's two of us, it's me and Kirsten. Kirsten's definitely the more pragmatic of the two. I'm the more, you know, let's just fly by the seat of our pants kind of girl.
But I would say that you have the more dominant energy, though. And that's nothing here or for, but it helps because Stephen and I work through this, like in our shows, like, because I can be more dominant, like, especially if I'm with women, I'm way more dominant because that's just, I can go either way. I'm pretty androgynous. But when I'm with Stephen, it opens up a different portal where I can just go wild and have that open throat just go, because Stephen's really good at like being like, mer, and like pulling it back to what we were discussing and keeping it on flow. And then everything he says is orderly. So I feel like it adds that balance. So when you watch it, you're not so dizzy, but I can do the other too. And you can learn to do the other. And that's because I think you might find yourself in the dominant space when it comes to you and Kirsten, because she's just such an etheric flower. Like that's her energy. And she's so bubbly and like a fairy, like we say, where I find out of the two of them, like even in the other show we do, you're the one that naturally takes over if I go out of sync, which happens a lot. You're the one that comes in and keeps that like going. So I think you do have it in you like a lot. And I get it though with the open throat though. And it's kind of, especially we'll get into your sacral because you're intuitive too. So am I, but I'm splenic intuitive, which is just like that, no information, where you and your sacral are going to get more information to come in on your intuition. So you just have to learn to trust it, go with it, that you are the leader, and then let that part of you specifically, you like focus in on it to let that part be the leader. And it's how we grow in our energy and why these shows are so important.
Yeah, I mean, it's all a learning curve as well, isn't it? That's the thing. And I think Kirsten's got a very it's soft, but it's an expansive kind of energy, and it's just figuring out how to work the ebb and flow. I don't think it helps as well, you know, with like the lag sometimes on the internet, because you think, oh, have they stopped talking, have they not? So what I'll kind of do is I'll have a piece in my head and I'll say it, and then I just rhyme to an end. But I do that to give somebody else a space. Basically, I'm making space for them because I could just talk forever. I could have my own radio show from like 12 o'clock at night until 7 o'clock in the morning, and I wouldn't get tired. I'd just like, blah, 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 that's just what I do. But I do like what you were saying about Stephen reining you in, because you can tell, because he's very good at that, isn't he? Like you're really good at getting in an idea and you go in kind of like this flow state, and it's really interesting to watch actually, because the information that you pull through, you can tell like when you're on about being splenic, it is like that, and you can see like a little flash in your eye. She's like, oh, Diana's off, she's got a thread now, and you've just got to follow it to the end. And I really love that about you, because you just don't know what's going to come out your mouth, Diana, and it's always really profound and thought-provoking, but then at the end of that is like, yeah, definitely. And he's got a really good way of working with you where he can kind of put like you said, structured points in. So he's very good at surmising what you've said and putting it into a more I'm going to say coherent, because sometimes you do go on a bit of a tangent.
Yeah, he's
as
aware
well,
of what
you
the
know.
audience, like he
Yeah.
keeps, because I kind of lose, I'm more on the following of it all, putting it together in my own mind, because it builds understanding for me as well when this happens, because it'll be things I know, but all of a sudden the epiphanies are streaming them together. So it's like broadening the perspective of these concepts. But then, and then I
Yeah.
try to give background of here and here, and that's where I'll kind of go off, just to kind of like get the quick out of what I mean by this and what I mean by that and what I mean by this, like as I continue down. And yeah, I could end up giving like 2-hour lectures on all these things that come in, but then just like proper ADHD, or maybe it's part of being intuitive, like having that as your authority, it's gone. If I don't follow that thread right then and there, it's probably gone forever.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? And that's the great thing, because when you're recording it as well. So not only that, you can always go back and go, oh, what did I say? Because I'm the same. It comes and it goes. And I think that sometimes, like, I do know when there's a panel and people are talking, they talk a bit, and then I'm like, the energy's dropped, because I listened to what you were telling me about that. Oh, something will come in my head, and I'm just like, sorry, I need to share this, so it's gone for, like you said, forever. What do you think of? So I don't want to overtake it, but I also feel like good breaks, keeping people's attention, you know.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it comes because a lot of people are telling me that I do good now, and a part of me is still stuck in 5 years ago when I don't think I was doing as good, because I was still, the streams were still happening for me, but you do come to a place where you learn how the audience likes to hear it, and Sarah talks about that a lot. And it's why she says she likes doing her live panels, because even she likes to get feedback. Like, do you understand what I say when I say this? Do you understand what I mean when I say that? Because in the way we're going, and especially ones like us, amalgamating all the very many threads of the religions, traditions, plus incoming channeled information from all angles, like especially getting into people like Ashiana Dean, who I've been, and you've too, been like back down that rabbit hole of. And I feel like I threw her away too easily. I was deep into her a couple years ago, or a year ago, basically, but then I just like hit a point where I couldn't understand any further. So I blamed it on her. I blamed it on her, as the ego will do. And I'm like, maybe I just need to realize I have some focusing I need to do, because her material is so intricate, And
I think it's resonance as well. I mean, that's what it comes down to, really. I mean, yeah, there is the focus thing, but also you'll find like Dolores Cannon. I picked her up when I first properly came online. We'll say I was looking for something in like 2018, 2019, and it was like, and I was looking at all these YouTube videos, and I came across a couple of lectures by her, and she absolutely fascinated me. And we've talked about it before. And the breadth and depth of her work that she's released is absolutely astounding. But when I started going down the convoluted universe, that sort of really opened me up. But I know she didn't resonate with you, does she? The way that she talks.
She did it first for a long time. It was when I heard that the earth was ending in 300 years. And then I tried, because I was really trying to commit to her, because I have to commit. Otherwise, I'm just reading it to learn it. If I want to actually get into your teachings, I have a committing I need to do. And so I committed, and I get more betrayed when I commit. And when I heard that 300 years later, and because I'd committed, I had to believe it. And then I went through this remorse period thinking the earth was going to die in 300 years. And I was just allowing it and doing like, okay, this is the mission. But then I find, because her videos are for so much of a long time, and the books I had are written in the 90s, she changed her mind. Apparently, we got over that timeline. The earth's not ending in 300 years. And I do understand that timelines do actually work like that. So I should have given her some grace. But because I went through such a profound grief period, I kind of was like mad at her for it for like a year. But I'm over it. And that's on me, because that's just a learning curve, right? You got to be ready for that. I know that's how it worked. I knew it even then. So that's on me. And just always stay discerning, always stay open. So there's no doomsday plots to ever die on the cross of or be sad about, because it can always be changed. And we saw that. And that's all.
I mean, I've got a notebook, you see. This is the ADHD as friends. So you can listen to it. So the first thing was timescales as well. And whenever anybody gives me a timescale, they immediately go, all right, then I'm going to put that on the shelf. We'll wait and see. Because they're notoriously difficult to navigate. As somebody like yourself that has then gone into channeling, they'll say soon, because they know they can't give an actual date unless there is a certain specified date. But it's very difficult to get that. because the future is really malleable, you know. And also, when you're dealing with beings that aren't in the same density that we are, I don't know if this is part of it really, but it does feel kind of right. They don't have the same perspective as time as we do, you know. So their scene is going to be a little different to our scene, you know. And then you mentioned about you had to commit, which I like. So when you say commit, do you mean commit fully to what they're saying? Because I think the bit like you were on about always having discernment. I like to read somebody and I like to use them as like thinking points, almost like flashcards, you know, for like ideas. So they'll say, like, I'll listen to them and go, oh yeah, that's interesting, that's interesting. But I really struggle to be, I mean, I don't know if that's an open throat thing, going back to the human design, but I really struggle to go, oh yeah, that's a definite truth, you know? I can't ever hang my hat on anything, and I really struggle with that.
That's exactly it. Yes. And I think that's what the open throat's supposed to do. That's what our magic power is, to hold that awareness, to always be able to amalgamate anything. So religions, ideas, perceptions,
Yeah.
perspectives, which is exactly what expands reality. So that gives us kind of a key position and almost like a huge responsibility on being those people that can raise that awareness, expand that awareness because of what we can do. But likewise, this makes things like committing, and then your Sagittarius moon and me, Stellenium in Sagittarius, is no commitment, right? So I think that adds to that as well. But we can, when it's right, I think that's just a good thing. It means we're not going to settle on anything that's cheap in any regard, right? It's going to be the real deal no matter what. And that's when these committing to people in religions come to, not religions, but like our newer versions, right? For me, because I was Carrie Kay that started it for me, that one I used to be committed to deeply. And she said this thing about flying in the reeds, and you can't grow stronger as your tree if you're busy blowing in the wind, right? And that resonated deeply, and this was years ago. So I was like, okay. And it's funny because I already knew The Alchemist, I think, at that point too, but I hadn't committed to her yet. I was actually ended up going really deep into the Carrie Kay world for a long time. And I committed because of her, but then she did teach me that. And then I had moved on from her, but then I committed to The Alchemist next. I haven't really moved on from The Alchemist. It's just more I've just grown into feeling like we know the same information. And that might sound extremely bold. And I still love the way
The Alchemist.
yeah, and I love the way she puts things. She could put things way better and smarter than me. But like when it comes to seeking higher information, which I absolutely never stop, she's the one who told me about Ashiana Dean, so she agrees. Ashiana Dean is the next layer, and then so yeah, that Brits bring me because I haven't committed a lot. And Matthias DeStefano, oh my goodness, I don't think I could be shook from him, and that was natural. There was no needing to commit. It was just, I have to watch myself if I don't like fall down on my knees if I ever see him in person, because like, oops, like how are you not the Messiah? And he even says we're all supposed to be, but oh my God, the things lined up with his life are true magic.
Do you know, I've never seen any of his stuff. I've obviously seen, because he's on Gaia, isn't he?
Yes, but he goes so much deeper than that. That's just, they do a good job of production value, so that part of it's nice. But with him, you go on this journey with him for a full year in Egypt. Every day he's making a video in Egypt during 2020, and it went into 2021. And I was on this journey with him originally when it was happening. So that was so magical. I fell behind. But so I didn't finish at the same time, but I was there with him live every day for a few weeks. I think I kept it up for maybe 3 weeks, almost a month or something, which is a lot for that ADHD part to commit days a week to something. It's not nothing. So, but still, it was such an experience that just, I feel like a piece of me even lives with that journey because it's just so a part of me. I wish I could be part of it, but I'd already had kids. Not that I regret having kids, but like, when am I going to pack them up and start traveling the world too? Like opening the grids, like we were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's all divine timing, and everything that's happened for a reason, isn't it? This is when people look back and go, oh, I'm one of those annoying people that are just like, well, it kind of has happened, you know. We've all had these horrific traumas that have happened in our lives, or really difficult things, or we've made certain decisions. I'm not saying as children as traumas, by the way, but we've had commitments. They're a commitment, aren't they? They're a certain path that you walk down, and it all shapes us and it takes us to where we need to go. And don't forget, we're doing grid work all the time, you know, just by being in the area that we're in. I never stay in a house really more than 2 years as a rule. And I never knew why. I was like a traveling gypsy. And even when I had children, you know, things have happened, circumstances. I think the longest I've stayed in a house was 3 years, which is really, some people might be really like, horrified by that. But I always go to different towns, and it's like, I was thinking, God, why is this happening to me? And it hit me. I'm working with the energy, you know, even down to the jobs that I get and the places that I go to work and the time that I spend there, because even unconsciously, we're conductors of energy when we come in to do that. And the more we come online, it's just more consciously that we're accessing those states. And that's why kind of when you talk about this, the middle pillar and the hero's gamut and the Christ consciousness and all the rest of it, it really resonates because it's all names for the same thing. It's like the Dajjal pillar, I can't bloody pronounce, you know what I mean? The Egyptian pillar. It's bridging spirit and matter, basically. And that's the whole point of this is my realization. The whole point of the mission that I'm here for, and many other people here for during this ascension process, is to bridge that divide and bring spirit into matter, but also move matter into a kind of physicality of spirit. So it's not just one or the other, you know?
1000%. And that's exactly the life I had too until recently. And it was actually on Twitter where I was whining about wanting to move. Because when you get a mortgage, when you buy the house, you have 5 years or they penalize you. And then so my husband, like, we have to wait 5 years. And even I was pushing that. And the 5 years is finally coming up. And then I was tweeting about it months ago, maybe a year ago now. And it got it in my mind ever since that, like, somebody was just like, is that right for your kids? And I was like, ow. Because I justified it that it's good for their souls, it's good for their spirits. And I had best friends my whole life, but they only ended up leaving in the end and not being, you know, breaking your heart, right? As people will do.
Yeah.
When we've been lifetime, they were my entire childhood, right? So it's like, I was like, they're better off without that, you know, like, let's keep it moving. Because I moved every 2 to 3 years, every year for many before kids, but even so every 2 to 3 years, because I loved moving. I love the experience. I don't mind packing or unpacking. It's how I'm not like a hoarder and how I keep things organized. So the fact that we're like staying in this house, it's a perfectly nice town, nice area, wonderful house, wonderful yard, like everything is checkmarked. There's nothing wrong. But I'm just like, but we got to go.
Hey, Karen.
We gotta go.
Sorry, I'm listening to you again.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the Sag Moon as well. Well, you're not Sag Moon, you're just Sagittarius, aren't you? But not just. You know what I mean? So I think that's part of the Sagittarius thing, because you've got that real free-spirited kind of adventure, that what's next, you know? It's that kind of fiery momentum that you get from that kind of sign, isn't it? We want adventure. We don't want to be stuck.
Exactly. Yeah. And I have this, how do you say it? I always want to say it's stellium, but I'm adding an extra letter and I know it.
Stellium.
Yeah, stellium. See, I like stellium better.
I like stellium. It sounds like it sounds like a brand new periodic element, doesn't it?
Exactly. It might actually be. It's way more fun of a word.
We should make that. We should make a comic book, Diana, and we should make that the magical thing that we find. Yeah.
Yeah, the stellium, because it's funny because it's such a part of my life. Because is that a common thing? I didn't think it was, but then I have a stellium in Sagittarius, and my husband ends up having one in Cancer, and we're always this whole Cancer again, because that's like that's a crazy mix. Cancer against Sagittarius. They're all feelings, and we're don't have feelings.
That's the thing, isn't it? I mean, there's different types. And I mean, I'm not an astrology buff. Please don't take that. You know, I'm not. I'm not very good at astrology. I'm dipping my toe. But yeah, you can get a stellium. So I used to think it was 3 planets, because it can be 3. But most hardcore astrologers, it's like more than 3. But I classify 3. So you can have it either in one house or one sign. So you can have a stellium in like your second house of different planets, but it's still 3 planets in that house. Or you can have like a stellium of one, I don't know, you can have loads of different planets in Sagittarius, for instance, but they could be spread out, or they could all be in the same house. Are yours all in the same house as well?
Mine are all Sagittarius. I didn't know the house thing, so I'd have to look into that too. Because every
Yeah.
time I learn something, that's just how I learn it. Every time I learn about something new, so in this case, stellium, still working on it, which was just a couple months ago, I instantly had a feeling, because I'm always mentioning I'm the Sagittarius thing, and I knew I had heavy Sagittarius placements. But I just didn't know that made a thing that like upped the power even more. And 3 makes sense, because that's what I learned it as too. 3, because it's always
Yeah.
we're a Trinity universe. So the 3 absolutely makes sense. And then it makes sense that more would be more power, because that's just simple math.
Yeah, it's just more concentrated. That's the thing. So I've got a stellium of Sagittarius, and I've also got a stellium in bloody Scorpio. So yeah,
Oh, that's it. That's like a poet right there. That is such a poet energy. And I think your thing says you're a poet on Twitter. I could see that the dark. My dad's a Scorpio. My husband's, all his friends are Scorpios. Like, it's crazy. It's weird. Like, for real. Like, he has got a thing with Scorpios. And then my dad, who doesn't get along with people, because he's a Scorpio, him and Patrick are besties. Every time Patrick shows up, he's so happy. But let's pull up your chart. I still have it
I love
saved here,
that.
and we'll dive into, because there is so much for people to know in this. And I like, because astrology is actually, it's more complicated, I would say. It's more intricate, there's more variables, but human design has such a comforting simplicity about it, even though it has a lot too. The way it's laid out is less open to interpretation, which we should like interpretation, but when we have these huge systems, the way this is done is just, it sits with me in a more understanding way, put it that way. And look here, you have a closed
Is it right
root.
brained? Sorry. Is it right brained?
Right brained. Yeah, exactly. It's more right brained, which just helps understand. And when we understand better, we learn better, we are better. And for you, you have a closed root. So that makes sense. That authority I was sensing would come from a closed root. So it should make, if you did want to set yourself to a discipline, that would suit you very well.
Okay. So tell me more about this closed root then. How does that work with the other stuff?
You also have an unconscious channel there as well, with
Oh,
a bridging in of a consciousness from the other side. But that means that there's extra strength, and each channel has its own detail of explanation of what that means, but it's all included. So if there's anything that like you want to read, it's like paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs that would start to break each gate down, which is the number versus the channel, and you would just go and go and go. That's why there's so much to read and learn.
so the gate is the number versus the channel.
Exactly.
So just, do you want to give me like a little example of that, just so I know what you're on about? Because I'm brand new to this, really.
Yeah. So let's just go ahead and we'll start reading one of your, I have it because I use the app for my information. So I can't pull up that screen, but let's click on that channel and we will dive in deeper, because in that channel, stalling as I pull it up. So 32 to 54. So you are immensely driven and determined to succeed. So that's this channel we're looking at here. The root and your spleen. So you have a defined spleen as well, just like I do. So that would give you extra. Yeah. So pushing yourself to find the right people who can help you climb the career ladder. There is a feeling that something greater than yourself propels you forward and upward. Your motto could be, I will reach the top no matter what it takes. Both material and spiritual success are important to you, so you continually search your surroundings for people who can support your advancement. This intense ambition has been planted by Gate 32 and leads to a tendency to become a workaholic, staying late in the office or putting an extra hour just to impress your boss or meet certain objectives. But we could see that in the way that you are really determined and micro looking at the ways your podcast is going, how to improve it, like how the layers, you understand that. Because if that is your ambition, like that's where you're going to give that energy to. So you're here to grow and strive for excellence in life. The 3254 is the channel of transformation. And keep in mind, though, it's mostly subconscious. So but we are mostly driven by the subconscious. It's just that it's happening, but you would be less aware of it.
Okay, so that's what it means by the subconscious. It's just a program that I've come in with that is kind of a driving force behind me, but I'm not necessarily always aware that that's my driving force.
Yes. And the super magical power of this is where human design gets more specific, is because 88 days before you're born, there is another astrological imprint taken. And that's the unconscious, and they pair off the other. That's why I think human design ends up being more intricate, because it's using both. And then you're here to grow and strive for excellence and this channel of transformation, as it can dramatically alter your life and those around you when you start progressing. You have the ambition to succeed, and your contact list is full of links to people who can assist you on your journey towards a position of power and wealth. You focus strongly on boardroom meetings, and no, not so much. And you gotta love how these apps read, and this isn't the only one, where they read like you have a normal job. Because I'm researching human design because I have a normal job. Like, it's just so funny how they always use the terminology of the office. I know a lot of people who do work in an office, but
it was a nurse, wasn't I? But that's true, because I remember going to so when I was doing my student thing, I did an apprenticeship. They'd place us in a certain area, and I was one of the trailblazers for this particular apprenticeship. And we'd been put in a community setting, but all of the coursework and all of the work within the university and within the trust actually had been geared towards hospital placements. So I was really unhappy, and I ended up calling a meeting, of course I did, with all the managers and university, and we all got all the other people that were doing the same apprenticeship in the same area as me. And I ended up going head to head with one of the managers and bringing about some change. So it does actually make sense, really. But I've got to be driven to do it, because if I'm not asked, I'm not. But when I am, do you know what I mean? I'm like a dog with a bone.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. And the more channels a person has, it adds to that determination period, because the channels and your solidified gates are where you have more power in the physical world. But the ones where you're open is where things come in and they're more spiritual. Like, that's where our intuition can be, and our empathy. If you know yourself as an empath, that's where that kind of stuff would come in. So they both have their time and place of where they can be beneficial in your life. But absolutely, that's where that would be coming in from you and for you, and you see it how it happens, like from this, that, and the other. And that's why we can be similar to someone else, but there's variables, because I'm ambitious because of this, and you're ambitious because of that, and or some things are the same, or even the Sagittarius nature we both have, but coming through different planets. Like, my Sagittarius is in Saturn, as well as the sun, and then there's a third, but Neptune, which is pretty important for being spiritual.
Oh, right. I think my Saturn is actually, I kind of remember it's squared or conjunct my moon, which is a bit interesting. My moon is Sagittarius, so yeah.
Yeah, the square I think is bad, but conjunct is good, I think, if my knowledge. That's the kind of stuff where human design or astrology gets so
I think I'm conjunct, but yeah, I do have a bit of push and pull, because obviously Saturn are,
they're both in for the hard lessons, though. That's interesting. They're both in for hard lessons, where Sagittarius is inherently a good influence, a good person, because justice, you know what I mean? That's a huge thing for them. But then when you pair it with Saturn, it's like you can see the severity of the Sagittarius is more illuminated.
Yeah. But then I've got that obviously with a Libra rising and a Libra sun, so that balances it out. But obviously the justice element again, this great sense of injustice, which is a big theme with people with ADHD. I find, they do feel this really keen injustice.
Yes. Yep. I could see that. And I wouldn't be surprised if that was an astrological too. I heard this one thing, but I can't remember it, of course. But it was to check the Neptune placement of autistic people, and it matched up. It was something about if the Neptune was here or doing this, then autism was going to come through. And it kind of, I conceptually understand it, but I forget the logistics, so I cannot verify it at all, unfortunately. And these things
me too.
are definitely much better spread when you have an understanding of it. Like, that's why I'd love to teach what Dan Winters teaches, because I conceptually understand it, but could I back it up? No.
That's the thing with a lot of information now. That's where I go wrong, Diana, as well, because I'll listen to it and I'll take it in and then I condense it down into kind of like this knowing. Because when you're learning something, it's like the understanding comes from how you relate it to other things. That's kind of how I perceive it anyway. But then, because I've gone on this journey where I've been given this concept, how do I understand this concept? And it's expanding it then, isn't it? So how does it relate to this? How does it relate to this? Because when you read it's like a tweet, you'll read a tweet and it'll say something like, I don't know, the universe is made of love, but what does that actually mean? And when you expand it out, it touches in so many different areas that when you want to kind of condense it back down, how do you tell somebody that? How do you tell somebody all the bits that go with it? They've just got to know. And I think this is the thing when you talk about like symbology, and Dion Fortune touches in this when she breaks down the mystic Kabbalah, and they talk about the initiates, and what they do is they'll do these kind of meditations, don't they? And they go above the level of physical knowing, and it's through symbology, and they will download the information, because there's no physical way really to fully comprehend some of these metaphysical topics other than going up and out and expanding and then bringing it back down. Do you know?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, because saying things like the universe is love, that could be broken down to a mathematical equation, like in one area of reality, a frequency bandwidth in another layer of reality, an actual symphony in another layer of reality, because it comes through on all these levels. And so Us for Love is that tingle in the heart, the expansion. It has a whole energy that we're even learning to build and have different versions of it, like deeper love for our children, deeper love for humanity. Like, have you noticed love has changed the way, like, it's grown? It's still the original exists, but there's more of it.
Do you think it's grown, or do you think it's always been there, but your perception of it's grown?
That's very possible because of children. Very possible because children just do that, where they like, I don't know. That's why it's funny when you were talking earlier about having children isn't trauma. It's true. It's not. It was a trauma healer. Like, I just knew it was like an intuitive knowing that when I had children, I would heal. Like, they would heal me. I couldn't do it for myself. I had to do it for them. But then actually when they came around, it ended up being for me. But it still happened because of them anyways, because the level of care children required me to level up as a person to just be better at taking care of them. So like, it actually ended up doing it from a different lens I didn't see as being an issue, because they didn't realize that like trauma can just make you suck at life, like you could just suck at regular peopling. And then when you have to take care of children and feed them and change them and do all this stuff, I did it all. But along the way, that was my fire. That was my alchemy. That was because I'm not a type A person. I'm not a person that had to clean the house. I would have maids come and clean the house every few months, and that was it. I didn't make the house messy because I was just an adult, but all of a sudden you have kids and just life changes like that. But for me, it was great because without that, I never would have bothered, because why would I ever have to bother doing all those life tests and things, just all the things that end up happening with kids. Every single one of them is like an initiation. It's like a trial to make yourself a better person, because you want to be better for them. You know what I mean? Because what one human used to get frazzled and be like, oh no, about that, they now have a reason to not be like that and to be, I don't know, just better. And then it's hilarious how that works.
I mean, I've got quite a few things to say to that, because that was amazing. You touched on so much, as you do. This is when I watch your podcast, Diana, my mind goes off and it pops off like little flashes of paparazzi cameras. It's amazing. So we were talking about and the quality of love. I think what happens is when you have children, obviously from a woman to a woman perspective, you have to give up being the center of your own life, in essence. Now, and we talk about like the yogic tradition, and they'll go off to ashrams and they'll dedicate their life to, trying to get to samadhi or whatever. I watched a podcast on it last night and I forgot all the terms, and I'm absolutely rubbish at remembering them, but whatever. But they're on this path of enlightenment, and we look at like the siddhas, and when you compare each siddha like being small, and then he compared it to like, actually what you're doing is being humble, because when you're humble, you're small. So it's matching it to that frequency. But what actually happens is when you're a mother and you're actually in it, and you're working towards being a better mother and a better human being, and you're on the awakening path, that is like a fast track almost to the siddhis, I would say, but in a different, it's just like a different route, because it's the mother energy and it's that mother goddess energy. And the guy that was, I forgot his name now, he was talking about you can get the siddhis through like this devotional pathway, and it's to one specific goddess, and she's like the mother energy, you know, and that's almost what we're doing, because it's we're the microcosm of the macrocosm. That's why the feminine is so powerful, I think, you know.
100%. Yes. And it's so true. And I like saw something when you were talking there, like what it does. It's like, and being a mother is more, but getting in a really good meditation and feeling like it's like a fire that's blowing a wind that's cleansing your trauma. It is healing you. It is aligning your energy body, right? Like you can get to these spaces like that, the fire, the literal alchemical fire. Well, likewise, instead of sitting in meditation, if you're face to face with a child that's having a ridiculous tantrum over something ridiculously stupid, and having that moment, instead of going, that's ridiculously stupid, and you could fake it, because I had years where I faked it, oh, it's okay, sweetie. No, that doesn't work either. But when you genuinely allow that ego self that wants to say that's stupid, and just sit there and deep breathe into a meditative space in the heart spark, exactly like you would in meditation, you actually burn that away and it's gone. And you could take that to any situation in life, like whatever you're doing, dealing with a bad cashier or anything, like you can do the same thing, but it's so much more easily done with your actual children because of that love, because the love is right there. You're attached to that love. So you have every reason in the world to drop all the ego, to find all the ego, and to just completely eviscerate the self, to return. It's funny you said humble is small. I don't so much, it's all, I'm not disagreeing. I just think it's like a different, I see it as open, the openness and the emptiness. Humble is like a nothing, but in an open, empty way, if that makes sense.
That's what I think that's what he's meaning. So he was talking, I forgot them all because I'm rubbish, obviously, at remembering stuff.
At terms, and oh yeah.
You know, I had a savant like memory when I was in my teenagers, and something happened to me. It was me walking, but well, that's a different story. But yeah, so what he was talking about is it corresponds to a certain state of purity of the human condition. I'm going to say it that way. And when we're humble, like you said, it's emptiness. It's not being attached. It's not needing your ego to be big. I think that's what he means by small, you know, because a humble person doesn't have this massive ravaging ego that needs to be fed. And when you apply that same principle of being humble to the siddhis, you're able to diminish the ego and become nothing, like you said, the emptiness, which then you can, because we're creating our reality, aren't we? That's the gateway to becoming small in the physical, which is the siddhi of, I forgot what it's called. Does that make sense?
Yes, because that's exactly, yeah, because Stephen and I were even talking about the big and small cities. And I just got, because I don't even do Kriya yoga. I've tried it. I hate it. But I don't even do Kriya. I love yoga, but I've tried it. And the big, small, the energy field, like I feel like that resonates, because Kriya yoga is meant to get you in there easily with a solid practice. Here you are. It is a recipe. But that kind of energy and that kind of power, like you're saying, can come about in so many different ways, because working with our energy, because it's in a higher realm, has more options. It has more perceptions, more layers, more ability. Like, so it's not like the 3D world is where things are only, and even then it's not only this way, but that's, you know, the key, only the one key opens the lock. It's not that way in the energetic world so much. There's many different avenues that we can go, and then so to unlock these powers of big and small, and then I feel it energetically. I feel like you can go really big energetically, and you can go really small energetically. Go ahead.
The thing is with the Kriya, so it's one of the pathways of doing, because you've got your Kriya, your mantra, and your mudras, aren't you? I'm not an expert on this. I follow Yogi Gems on YouTube, and she's brilliant, and I'm getting better and better as I go. I still do Mother Bund and have a sore bottom. And you're not even meant to clench your butt cheeks, Diana. That's what I'm going to say. But anyway, for anybody exploring Kriya, if you've got any tips from Urban, I'm all here. I'm all ears. But yeah, so when we talk about the Kriya, what that is doing is it's just a tool to redefine your energy body, essentially, and concentrate it and clear it. But there's lots of other ways to do that. I mean, even when you go back to your children, I love what you were saying about when you're face to face in the real world with these very, very dramatic situations, and your children are your biggest mirrors. People often say, oh, you know, we need to teach our children. It's like, no. What you need to do is you need to be quiet and watch your children and learn from them. Even if not directly they're giving you wisdom, you will always be able to learn from how they act, how they move, how they observe things. Do you know what I mean? They're just literal little teachers. And that's the thing. If you're open to it, you can really expand yourself just by being a mother. And I'm saying it's it's a dedication. You know, it's a vocation. You don't be a mother because you're getting paid. You don't get appreciated half the time. You're giving up a lot of your own agency, and you're dedicating all this unconditional love. And that's what it is on the path of enlightenment. If you come in and you do this, because don't forget there's a karmic element to this as well. A lot of people talk about having children and how they don't want to have children because they don't want to get tied down to this third reality density because of the karma. But actually, if you look at it, it's actually a tool to release karma if you do it properly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, for sure. I can tell that, especially even with Kriya yoga. That's why I hate it, because it's. I would rather fight my battles energetically, but like to physically do the things and then feel like, Andrew tells me I'm wrong. So.
You should know.
But yeah,
Always
if that's one of
watching.
those things I could push myself into doing. I could. I know I could.
It needs to feel right. It's really funny because I mean I've had lifetimes before where I've been a yogi. I know that. I can't remember all the specifics, but it's just a knowing. And I've been on this path for a few years now. I mean, I've been, to be fair, my entire life, but real in earnest, which is talked about, haven't we, with healing and properly committing. About 5 or 6 years, obviously just starting out. And I've been pushed all that time. People have been coming to me. My guides have been saying to me, I've met people that do yoga throughout the last 5 years. Oh, yes, Sam, you should do yoga. I've literally been pushed to do yoga. And it's only obviously got really good friends with Kirsten. And then obviously started talking to you and Steve. That he was like, I'm Kriya yoga. And I often laugh about it, you know, because I used to think, bloody hell, Steve, you're over-egging the pudding there. It's not that good. And you know, Kirsten was like, well, I kind of started out with Kriya, but then, you know, I think she just asked the asana, I can't pronounce it, whatever. The asana practice. It sounds a bit rude, didn't it, asana? But anyway, sorry, I'm going off piste. Yeah, so she does the asana practice, but she said that she started out with that, but it's so intense and it's so like kind of purifying. It's literally shedding karma. Like you can feel your energy body alchemizing all this like density within your body and like releasing it. And it was the right time for me, Diana. You know, that's the thing. Everybody's different, everybody's past different, and each practice that we get, whether it's meditation, I don't know, any kind of martial arts, anything, you know, that you fall into, will come at just the right time that you need it, and it won't necessarily stick with you forever, because that's the nature of growth, isn't it?
100%. Yeah. And I've gotten called to yoga too. Yoga was one of those things that came for me, just like Christ and Cali. But yeah, yoga itself has come through. And that's where it's like, and that's where I could step through, because like there's certain kind of pain that we can go through that like you feel it and you work with it better, if that makes sense. So like the pain of stretching in actual yoga, or even yin yoga. I love yin yoga. That's where you stretch into it for a very long time. I love that yoga. Like I love the pain of stretching, or you know what I mean? There's something about the
pressure release, isn't it?
Exactly. I feel
Yeah.
something wonderful. It's like more like, so it's probably doing it slower. I bet you yoga gets through all this much faster, because like the holding, and there's one that you were holding your arms up, like this one where you were just holding them up. Like is something always about holding your arms up, and then that starts to scream at you, and then something always about weird breathing, and then you start to suffocate. So like your arms are in screaming pain, but then at the same time your legs aren't doing anything, so you likewise feel like you're doing nothing. That's
Is
like,
this
so
with
it's,
the Kriya?
yeah, that's like that's why that's my experience of Kriya. It's always this mix of
So you need
disjointed
to get out your
experiences.
mind. That's the thing. That's what the pains do. So like when you first start, I'm just getting to the point now where I'm getting to the point where I don't actually specifically have to think about it as much. And I can also do it without, I've got a certain routine that I can do now without having to follow the video. So I do it for longer. And that's the thing, you see, which when we were talking to Steve about, because he was doing, what's it called? But yeah, I can't remember it now. What's that one that he's been doing for ages?
The version, oh, Sat Kriya.
Sakriya, that's the one. So you'd normally do Sakriya, and like people are like, oh, it's not very good, Sakriya. It's all right, it's too easy. But when you do it for a sustained period, it's like the ego buster, isn't it? I've done it maybe twice, and I'm like, I'm not ready to completely bust my ego yet. I'm going to leave that to the side. But that's the thing. It's you nail it down, and you get to the point where it becomes automatic, like breathing, and you get the breathing right, and it brings you to this kind of altered state. And the thing is with the pain, the pain is actually a tool. So if you go into the pain or the discomfort or whatever, that's the whole point of meditation, isn't it? And that's, I mean, Kirsten often talks about yoga was invented to help people have prolonged periods of meditation, essentially, because they're able to sit for longer, you know, and the bodies are more comfortable. But when you go into that and you move through the pain, that actually allows you to open up your consciousness. It's a gate, in effect. It's the same as like a stimulant, or because it's the same sort of pathways that it's all working on, isn't it? It's very there's not much difference between pleasure and pain, and it's the same thing in like tantric practices. So when you have these like pleasure practices, the point isn't to orgasm, because a lot of people are chasing orgasm. The point is to go into the pleasure and extend it to the point where you have kind of a transcendental experience, and you move into that bliss state. So you can then move it from like a sexual pleasure where you're like, oh, I'm going to have to release that, because that's what an orgasm is basically, isn't it? And you move it through you into like the heart or whatever, which is again a portal, and you can move it out. And moving it out into the biofield and then up is expanding your conscious awareness, and that's how you move into towards states.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm huge on the fascia system being part of the neural network of our actual body, as well as tied in like the meridians into our energy body. Like there is so much in the fascia, and that's why I like typical yoga better, because I can, well, it's my mind, like you're saying, so you're not wrong, but my mind can like make sense of it, and the flow is there, because I also like to do my spiritual work through like kind of like, you know, dance, like shamanic dance, where like it's kind of yoga dancing basically.
Yeah,
And you're getting it all, but it's in fluid motion, like similar in Tai Chi is in there as well, because you're just getting that energy moving, but also stretching the body in all kinds of positions, like to just get it flowing, and it does something. And I like
it
the
sounds
way.
like your legs are the issue, really. That's the problem, isn't it?
I
Your
have
legs.
actually wondered if my legs were, I've noticed actually in the last, that's funny you say that, very intuitive, because in the last month or so, the work I've been doing has actually made me feel them again. My legs were numb for years.
Yeah, you're moving through it. I mean, Karen mentioned she prefers to dance as well around crazy cringy over yoga, and do you know what, Karen, I love it as well. It's great. I love a good cringy dance in the kitchen, and you know, I don't really care if my kids see me or whatever, and the kids really enjoy it as well. They have a right good giggle at me. But yeah, going back to your legs, that's really interesting, because that's a support system, isn't it, as well? If you think about that's the chunk of our being. We talk about the root being the base, but actually when we're walking about, it's our legs, isn't it? That's the primal connection to the earth. So when you start to clear that, you have more of an intuitive connection to Mother Earth, really.
100%. Yes. And there's this YouTube fitness girl I watch. I love her because she does it in shorts, and I love shorts. And she describes that your legs actually hold your lifeline. The stronger your legs are, the longer you'll live, because they are so important for circulation, and they hold up the rest of your body, and they keep you aligned. If your legs are
Yeah.
nothing, you are nothing. So I've been doing squats and like all the stereotypical. There was this Asian move I've been doing for years, but I've just upped it. And they said you should always be able to squat flat footed. And
Yeah.
holding your arms out like this, which pushing your legs to either at the outside of your arms. At least I can go much further than that now. But when I started, that was a thing. I was like, what? But now, like, that's so key to have your feet flat and be down. There's so many weird, like the Chinese medicine had so much correct when it came to our bodies.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's really interesting that you mentioned that, because I've seen something similar. And our natural sitting positions, because obviously we're really spoiled now in this modern day and age, we don't move as much. We sit in these chairs. It's a squatting position. That's how we're meant to actually be at rest. And you look at all these tribal people that live till they're quite old, really, and you see these little old ladies, and they're still able to kind of like bend down and hold this like little squat, and it's comfortable for them, you know. And we should all be doing that, and it's absolutely right. And then it leads into your core muscles as well, because that's what keeps everything together, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yes, 100%. Yes. And working on that's not nothing. Like you see these fitness people and they'll be in that squat and they take their legs out and they take their legs out. I was like, that looks so easy. And then I went and tried it and I'm like, that's not easy. Like there's so much we take for granted in our bodies, because you can even be doing yoga and your muscles are not as strong as you might think. Because that's the thing, I was doing yoga for years. I thought I'd be in better shape than when I tried doing these other moves, and all of a sudden these other moves were much more difficult because the muscles were not being touched. So I've actually started implementing in just back what you would consider standard gym fitness, because like having our muscles strong is so key, especially like, you know, I'm not old at all. But as
No,
I
you're
start
not.
to prepare to maybe be old in the next decade or so, I want to make sure I'm never actually going to feel that. You know what I mean? Like I want age is just going to be a number, and I want to make sure I do nothing but get better physically, because that's body, mind, spirit. If it's not body, mind, and spirit, then it's nothing, because you have to be in alignment, and that's part of that.
Hi, Kirsten.
Yes.
Absolutely agree with that 110%. It's really funny because I was watching one of Sarah's videos, The Alchemist, the other day. I'm occasionally just dip in and out, and she was talking about what the monad was and what the oversoul is. And she gave me this really kind of interesting concept, because she breaks it down really simply, doesn't she? And I was like, oh, that's really interesting, actually. So the monad is the pre-creational state, because that's the way that is taught in a lot of like mystic schools. And from the monad bursts the oversoul, which is the second state. But from those two states comes a third state, which is awareness. It's like the logos, isn't it? And that's why there's always a trinity within all like the religions, all like the mystical schools. So it's interesting that we talk about body, mind, and spirit, because it's that to me is like the microcosm of the macrocosm of the initial creation, you know. So that's getting it all balanced, isn't it? And that's why it's so important.
100%. Yeah. And another thing, since we're, you know, advising people on fascia, is collagen. That's collagen. And then Ancient Nutrition is the brand I trust, although the last one came with little white stuff in it. So we'll see if I die. But
I mean, I'd probably say bone broth is the best for collagen as well. And it's great if you're worried about wrinkles. So I've not done any for a while because my oven's broken. I need to get it sorted. And I'm obviously ADHD and terrible, and I've got an air fryer, so why would I? But yeah, you can just use chicken bones, chicken feet. They're good for the flavour. Normal bones, we need to roast them, get them in there, in the cooker or the thing you put. You need some apple cider vinegar, because that'll draw it all out of the actual bone. Full of collagen, really easy to do, and it's cheap. So you don't, because I was buying collagen supplements, and they were like 30 quid for like a month or something.
oh yeah,
And
not cheap.
Fortune, absolute fortune. And that'll sort your connective tissues out. As you get older, your collagen depletes in your face. It's great if you're feeling like you're getting a bit wrinkly, which I am a little bit.
Hair, nails, gut health. It rebuilds your gut lining because a lot of us have leaky gut issues. That's what got me on it to begin with.
Absolutely. So bone broth, and obviously I've talked about this before. If you're wanting to do fasting, bone broth is great. It's great for breaking a fast. It's great to get into a fast if you've never fasted before. I mean, I look like I don't fast very often, but I can fast. I don't. The third day is always the kicker. If you can get past the third day, you've cracked it. You can get to 7 days because you're just bored then. So the third day is the really hard day. But yeah, if you start with collagen, not collagen, bone broth, it's really light. There's not anything in it, and it's still giving you like all those minerals and electrolytes and things, which we end up being depleted in. So it's a good way to ease into a fast, in like the first day or whatever, because you don't want to go from eating like 3 big solid meals a day to fasting, because you're just going to shut the shit out your system, basically.
I cut out there and missed the end.
I was just saying, you don't want to shut your shit out your system, basically. Ease into your fasts.
Yeah, I even used.
Oh, we've lost you again, Diana. It's because we said fast. It did this last time, I'm sure it did. Let's see if she comes back on. We'll have a little game. I'm going to say 5 seconds. Oh, no, it won. We're having a little game then. We're going to say how long it takes you to come back. I was saying because we said fast, that's where it started. Did this happen to you before when you were talking about fasting?
Oh, they actually booted me out of Twitter for 24 hours, but still, it was like,
What, for
why?
saying fasting?
Yep, for saying fasting. Yeah, my account was
Oh,
banned.
God.
And they were all
That
like, this
is
is a
terrible.
warning. Yeah, this is just the warning, they said. If it happens again, like you're out for whatever. It just shows you. I've had strikes on YouTube too for medical stuff as well, just talking about things that would help medically, and you get strikes, and it's pull the video down or take the permanent strike, and it's like, I hate that, because I want to be an anarchist. It's in my heart and soul. But at the same time, what did I just spend my last few years doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
that's how they get you, isn't it, as well? But then I think what that actually gives you is a way to kind of, we'll take it down, but we'll find a new way to say what we said before.
exactly. Yeah, I still talk about this stuff.
Circumnavigating the system. That's true anarchy. That's in my opinion, anyway. It's not let's destroy everything and just like cut our nose off to spite our face. It's all right. You've given me this situation. I'm still going to put my thumb up at you anyway, but I'm going to do it in a way that you can't actually censor me for. So it's doing it in clever ways, isn't it? And that's the thing. It's sticking it to the man while still being able to operate within the system.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you take down the video, but you still keep talking about it. That's all I do. I even add to it and say, yeah, they kicked me off for this before, or they've striked me for this before, because that they should be put on awareness just as much as the issues we're trying to bring awareness to. The censorship needs awareness too, because that's where they're really getting us. And this is the whole thing. Like, if people just spoke up, all the catastrophes of the past never actually needed to happen. There was always warnings. There was always things coming. And I feel like we did that with COVID. Like, I feel like they were pushing that narrative. They were going to keep pushing that until we were in those 15-minute cities. I think that's just a whisper of what almost happened, what they were trying to do. But we were already too far gone at that point. I don't think it ever would have happened. I was already awake. Like, so that was never in my timeline. That was never going to happen. So, but that's just one example. If we had seen this in all the catastrophic times, it wouldn't have happened, because awareness is everything. So when someone's trying to censor you, make sure you not only keep the issue you're trying to bring light to, like alternative healing modalities, but also the fact that they're trying to censor that. Because why are you trying to censor that? Because you're evil, duh. And like, anybody with half a brain can see that.
And they use the excuse that it's for safety, or that it's and that's the big red flag to me. Whenever it's for my safety, it's like, well, I'm a sovereign human being, so why not give me the information and let me make my own decision about what is or what isn't safe for me. But going back to the, I don't want you to get pulled by talking about 15-minute cities, but yeah, that was the whole point of it. And it's not even we're going to do it right now because they couldn't do it because they did get forced, I believe. I do feel like there was a shift coming with the consciousness anyway, and they had to kind of pounce and roll it out quicker than they wanted. We talk about like I talked about before, like the yellow vest movements and things like that in France, and it was spreading across Europe, and people's discontent and organised discontent and awareness at the issues that were endemic within society was starting to boil over. And they needed a way to put us back in the books, I think. That's my own little personal spin on that. But it was they basically accelerated it too quickly. But they've laid the groundwork because it was all about removing the cash, which cashes society. So it was a good thing for that. Getting people to see how compliant they were, putting people into a fear state, obviously causing disease with the jibby jabbies, all the rest of it. Reducing the population in that way, but also what it allowed them to do was create this kind of structure whereby they could bring in more monitoring and move away from like the physical aspects, like the shops, people meeting each other, and it moved more people online. And that's how they're going to be able to put the 15-minute cities in, really, because it's still in the UK. I'm in a zone that's actually meant to be trialing the 15-minute city. So we'll see what actually happens there. But there's still very much in the pipeline. So if you look at the medical system, the thing is, it's never just a singular thing. It's always done in tandem, and there's always other things that you can correlate it to. So they're bringing these things in called neighbourhood teams. It's a posh way of saying, let's move all of the medical access information and points of contact into one small area, which is a neighbourhood team, which coincidentally is about 15 minutes, point A to point B. And the government is still pushing this, but unfortunately they've not given them any funding to implement it for the NHS, which is where it's fallen down. But you can see it a mile off, and people aren't aware of this because it's happening behind closed doors. I'm sure it's happening in the financial institutions. Are shutting all the banks down now. There was this rule where they couldn't leave a town without a bank because of the people that were older that couldn't use financial banking, etc., etc. So they've moved it to the post office now. So they're moving all the banking down. Eventually they'll shut the post offices down. And you can see it unfolding, There'll be another section, I don't know, food will be the next one. Like you'll have to they'll bring these hubs in, like, can you get your vegetables? Can you get your meat? Can you get all that kind of stuff from the same areas? And it's slowly condensing people, where I kind of see it like a bit of a Hunger Games thing. So if you're in one of the nicer districts, you'll get more stuff. But if you don't toe the line, what actually happens is they'll restrict your food access. You won't get all the nice bits and bobs. They'll turn your electricity off because you're on these smart power. We'll have these smart meters, which they're pushing as well to get into our homes. So it's this really clever, orchestrated step plan. And you can see it a mile off. And obviously, if you're autistic or you're whatever, the thing is, we've got really good pattern recognition, and we can put the pieces together. Nobody's told me this. This is just what I figured out. I'm sure there's other people that's talking about it as well. But this is the thing. This is why they want people to have the smart meters. They want you to be monitored. They want you to have electric cars, It's all part of this control system. But what's actually happening is, this is what I can also see with this split. I think people that are happy to do that will stay in these areas. And people that don't will end up kind of almost like on a fringe society,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's
Sorry, I went on a bit of a waffle then, didn't I?
No, that was good, because I didn't know it was progressing that far. And I saw a few things when you were talking. One thing, it's like America's accidentally already that, because the way their states are divided. And some of them like that, because I find the poorer states are also the more free states. So the states are really divided up into these different ways of living, which is, I think, why, because that whole Hunger Games story is supposed to have taken place on America. So you could see how that came to be, but it sounds much creepier what's happening in England. And it's interesting because I know there was a lot of other problems there. Like, I accidentally saw a video of a baby getting beaten up because people just put these videos up, and then you end up, but then I don't know if I should see it and be strong enough, or I never ever want to see something like that. But it was in England.
No, why would you want to subject yourself to that traumatic? It's not detracting from that baby's experience, because that's really horrific. But if somebody's beheaded or whatever, it's
another war child that would.
It's a loose thing. Why would you? The stuff that I've seen, that I've watched in movies or whatever, that still stays with me now, and it's like a little psychological imprint, and it comes up, and I've really got to sit with that and say, why are you here? What are you teaching me? Why are you still attached to me? And it's traumatized me, basically.
Yeah, I banned horror movies in this house, and we used to be huge horror movie people, but I realized what it is. It wants those ideas in your head. The all is mind. It wants you to have those sick ideas in your head.
Yeah. And that's there was this. I ended up watching this thing. I used to watch Supernatural years and years ago. I didn't get tonight. I don't know how many seasons there are now, but yeah, quite a lot, weren't there? But there was this one episode, and it was this guy, and he got like an amnesia. Was it Supernatural? I could have made this up, actually. I don't know. No, it wasn't Supernatural. I'm talking absolute crap. It was something. And it wasn't, it was The Blacklist. Ignore me. ADHD strikes again. Right, I was watching The Blacklist, basically. And there was this particular episode where a guy had gone to do this job, and he'd left his kids in the car, basically. And he'd ended up getting shot, and he got short-term memory loss. So he could only remember 24 hours, and then his memory would reset when he'd go to sleep. And his children died in the car. And they explained it. How it happened, his wife said something, and ever since then, I have this really visceral reaction, and I can't be in hot cars. I can't have the kids in hot cars. I can't. Do you know what I mean? It's literally traumatized me.
Oh,
so
me
it's
too.
shit. Yeah. This is how it gets you.
Yeah, those kind of ones are the most horrible ones. They're like, yeah, I don't even want to put them out into the ether there, but cancel and nullify. But there was a show that came out about it with Claire from 6 Feet Under, and I love 6 Feet Under, and Ron Weasley was in it. And obviously I love Harry Potter. That's no secret. But the two of them are brother and sister in this show. And let's just say that's the plot, not with the memory loss, but the tragic part. That was the storyline. And it was so horrible. And that kind of thing is just too much. And it's like, that's where I want to, they talk about NPCs and stuff like that, and implants of memories and implants of timelines. And I was like, tell me that kind of stuff is just implants. Tell me the kind of stuff that's happening in certain parts of the country that we see these videos of are not real in this reality. Like, tell me that's just inserted because we're still, like, that is such a juxtaposition to the reality a lot of us find ourselves in. And that's why things are getting scary in the UK and in France. There's all this turmoil happening because you guys are still on the same landmass as them. And I heard things are getting scary in America. That's why I think I'm blessed to be in Canada, because, Canada, we are safe.
I think wherever you are in the world, there will always be scary things. I think wherever you are in the world, just the nature of reality at the moment, and the turmoil
in Canada, though. I'm not bragging. This is an ego, but we're safe. There's never.
Maybe I need to. I hear that, but this is, if you look at it from the other side. I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate here, and we were talking about assisted suicide last time, weren't we? And those
assisted suicide. Yeah, not from that, but yeah.
And you had like Justin Theroux, to whatever he's called. I can never pronounce his name properly. And the big trucking thing where they were like coming after the truckers. There's always some kind of.
They at least did that peacefully, though. I mean, I did know someone that got banged in the head with a rifle and knocked out. So that's pretty gruesome, I guess. Violent for Canada, but they'd like, considering what happens in the rest of the world, it was pretty PG.
I mean, where I am, it's not terrible, really. I mean, I once came home from the caravan, and it was like I'd gone into Twilight Zone. I'm not going to lie. There was like somebody TPing, like going around a full bus stop with sarang wrap, like just clear wrap. And then there was somebody literally across the road from them. These two, like, slightly older than teenagers, full on like snugging each other and hands down each other's pants next to a main road. I was like, what the bloody hell have I come home to here? So I don't know whether that was just like a full moon thing or what. But generally, where I live, it's all right, you know. The entire yeah.
That's wild. Because
it's crazy.
Like,
yeah.
We were just talking about grids because Kirsten talks about being safe. Every time I talk about America being dangerous, all of our Americans are like, no, I'm good here. Like, we hear about Florida, but David's like, no, where I am in Florida is good. We hear about Colorado, but meanwhile, Stephen's like, no,
even that bad? Is the world even that bad? That's what you're asking, isn't it?
Safe hubs. Yeah. Like, is it not real?
Because we're in such a condensed bubble. We're in such a higher frequency that it just doesn't affect us. We're all right.
Yeah, are we being kept safe, or is the dangerous reality not real? Because there could be, like, we talked about divine protection online, but there might be physical divine protection happening for all of us to be in safe areas when all this is happening. That's kind of wild.
I think we are all protectors. I mean, don't get me wrong. Stuff is, when I lived with my dad, this it's really bad. Really. He lived in this tiny little village. And something, I was there, and I was driving to work, obviously, because I worked at a hospital. And I was out at like 5:30 in the morning, and I was like, what's all those flowers doing there? And somebody had been stabbed to death. But it was totally, they'd never had anything like that happen before. Really, because really tiny little village. Do you know? But I was just an observer of the aftermath. I wasn't involved in it. I never really heard anything about it. It just came and it went, you know? So I do think it's all to do with the level of reality that we're in. If you sit and put the news on, you know, you're always going to be in that fear state, aren't you? Because there's always going to be something bad happening to somebody, because, you know, we're in a dualistic world, aren't we? That's the thing. There's good bits, there's bad bits, and everybody's life path and trajectory is going to be slightly different, you know? And some people have just signed up for the trauma end, or, you know, to get stabbed or whatever. You know, some people have just signed up for that. I know it sounds horrible, but they have. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I cut out there at the end. But no, I completely agree. Completely. And it's wild to think about. I don't want to think about it too much. Luckily, because I don't want to manifest it. One of the things I'm very grateful for is my journalism school, because I know it woke me up to the news being complete BS so early on. I wasn't aware that they were evil, but I knew it was so stupid. And anytime anyone asked me in a job interview, why is this your degree yet you're applying to this job or diploma? But I was like, and I'd go on my tangent. I'd be like, actually, because it was real. It was true. Like, it wasn't. I used to even ask myself, if I'm making excuses, am I making excuses because I just don't want to try at this really hard field? And it's like, it's a really hard field. But when you can't get your heart and soul in it, when I know I'd be slaving to evil, like, even if it's just materialism evil, which is even what I saw it as at the time, but now we know it's actually pushing an agenda evil. Like, I could never do that, because I just can't. Like, I just couldn't. It just wasn't
in alignment with you, is it? That's the thing.
Exactly. But then to see so many people watching it still, to this day, what? Really? Is it not more than obviously explained to you? Like those reels where it shows hundreds of news anchors saying the exact same script in the exact same timing.
Right. It's crazy. I've seen people do like these montages is that the right word? Montage is right, isn't it? Of like these news anchors, all different ones, saying the exact same things in the exact same way. Like there's no difference between them. And it blows my mind. It's like, wow. Are we that much in a simulation, or are we that controlled that every single news agency, and I mean, Kirsten and I spoke about this, it's like there's this virus or something, especially we noticed it with COVID and the jibby jabby, where they would be programmed. And I think that's from the news. And we talk about this kind of, this Yabaduth or whatever it's called, this, you know, archonic force, we'll call it, that's working in this world and pushing its agenda. And I think it's kind of like the Borg. And I've talked to you about this, and it's how it ties in with this AI agenda as well. And it almost assimilates people into they are literally programmed. And we talk about NPCs. I don't like that word, and I know you're not a big fan of it either.
Agreed.
But what I think is people that are just in this deep hypnotic matrix trance by this archonic kind of force. And you can call it, you know, archonic or whatever, going to the Gnosticism things, or you can talk about it being Watiko, or however you want to call it. There's this force, this inherent force that wants to feed and control and consume the human consciousness. And it's implanting these thoughts and ideas. And when you speak to somebody and you challenge that, because they're so hypnotized and they've abdicated the sovereignty so much, it's like this cognitive dissonance starts, you know, and they just can't accept it. It's like they'll say something and you ask them why. Like, oh, it's safe and effective. Well, why is it safe and effective? Because it's safe and effective. And they can't break it. It's like a loop. It's like actual zombies. I know you've talked about that before, haven't you? There's the zombie apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is.
Exactly. Yeah. That's funny, because I literally thought that was going to happen at once upon a time back in 2016 in my more schizophrenic days, but of not being balanced in this growing awareness, because I was trying to conspiracy level awake, and I knew about energy and pagan and Wiccan. But if you're not doing the alignment awakening, you can get the messaging, but it can be really twisted and not quite right. But then I realized the zombie apocalypse, though, is 100% real. And that's what we saw in COVID. So that leaking of a molecular or a biomolecular weapon did happen. And that was extremely proven. And still to have people like not get it. Or when you see like certain companies that release food, that have food products and pharmaceutical products, and they release these food products that are toxic and cause guess what, and then their pharmaceuticals are main profit coming in from guess what, you know, and then it's still go, that's just a coincidence. Like when I was young, because one thing that I always knew politics was dumb, but at the same time I actually still trusted them to be decent humans and to still want to protect their other humans, because that's just how I am. Even if you suck, you're still a human and I'm still look after you. Like that's just my heart and who I've always been. And that's not even a thing to be like, you know, so to think that there's an entire enormous population of people that don't care about other people, that would actually kill people for a profit line, that would actually withhold healing information for a profit line for money. What? Really? Like at least what are the Endrochrome? I think it's the name for it. Those conspiracies of what's happening at the darkest level, like that's horrible. But you could almost, and I'm not justifying what they're doing whatsoever, but they're trying to extend their life and all that stuff. And that's where humans will go their darkest, is when they're trying to save their own life. But for money, money, like
but that's the power thing, isn't it? And that's where you're out of balance, because it's the power. And if you, this is the thing, when you run the path, you realize when you die, it's not the end. So why would you want to be stuck in a human avatar forever and ever and ever? Why would you want to live forever as a human person on this holographic reality? It's a prison, but not in the way that we think it's a prison. It's a prison for your mind, essentially. It's a prison because you can only get so big. It's a box, not a prison, and you can't expand past it. And then you either leave by activating your rainbow light body and you ascend and you go consciously, or you die. And that's the thing. Why would you want to prolong it? I think a lot of the reason for that is because of people's karma.
Mm-hmm.
That's, even if it's subconscious and they're in these these CEOs of positions of power where they're able to access these kind of Luciferian cult-like, you know, societies, and they're doing all the adrenochrome stuff or whatever, or they're in positions where they want to make loads and loads of money, you know, to live this great life at the expense of other people. They're just accumulating more and more negative karma. You know, it's cause and effect. But they're pulling the lessons back into their reality that they're going to have to just keep repeating, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yes. You know what's funny? And then this brings me to a question. We'll do one formal question, and it's not from me, it's from Karen. And she's not asking, she's telling. But many are simply skin suits for non-human entities. Now, this is where I'm not sure, because when it comes to the really, really magical stuff in physical reality, I get a little doubty. And I don't want to be. If you show me a lizard person, I'm going to cheer and be very happy. That's great, because that actually makes life much easier if they're not actually human. And things usually tend to not be the easier solution. And the harder solution is they are just humans. They are just humans that got themselves that twisted up. They are just humans that are potentially raised that way from children to be that level of shut off psychopath. And then it actually gets into their DNA, just like stuff's in our DNA. If you've been the first class of society for a long time, this is probably why they had a conniption when Prince Harry married Meghan Markle or whatever her name is. I don't know, but because she's out of the bloodline, she's off the path. But allegedly he is too. So, but that causes a stir, and that's why like all this stuff causes stirs when you mix the blood. Because that's all it really is they've perfected a bloodline, and maybe entities are using that. I do buy that entities on the outside can read signatures in the blood and can go in, and you become a vessel for that being. But even still, the human is still there. This human is still responsible, and the human could still shake it off if it wanted to. That has to be the answer, because that's how universal law works.
Yeah, there was so much in that. I'm just laughing at Karen's messages. Aurelian pod implant, non-human is a huge tent of possibility. Do you know, we're in this holographic universe, let's just call it that. And within if we're looking at physicality, like as in the body, you're right about the blood. I do believe that our DNA is encoded with certain information. But I believe the human isn't necessarily a human, because I think there's different ways that we can come in here. So it depends on the soul and the spirit that's occupying the actual vessel. I do think there's actual holograms. I think there are people that are holograms. I've experienced this. It's like they're matrix constructs. So have you ever been to a supermarket and there's nobody in a supermarket aisle? And you look around and you're like, oh, it's really quiet. And then all of a sudden, 5 people will just come down the aisle. It's like, where the fuck have you come from? You know? It's like people are just pulled out. I'm not saying that doesn't, but there's other things that happen. Like you'll talk to like, you know, supermarket checkout ladies, and they can only say certain things. Not all of them, but it's almost that. And like it's the same person there at the supermarket every time doing the same thing or saying the same thing. And it's like these kind of like loops. It's like this strange hologram, but like a complex one, you know, like they can have a conversation with you, but they're really limited.
I think that's awareness level. I think that's limited ability to hold more complex programming. For the same reason we want to expand our bandwidth so we can have Ashiana Dean level complex programming. They are in the how's the weather? Today sucks. TGIF. Like that's their programming, and they can't get outside of it. Like the hockey watchers and stuff like that of Canada, like they're limited and they fall into the narrative, and the narrative scripts are given to them through medias, like the energy streams that can come, the why they would walk through the supermarket at the same time, because they do. I get why they're called NPCs and all these things, because they are not. They do fall in together like they're being run by something, but they don't have to be. They are handed seeds just like the rest of us, and they could choose to open that door, which would expand their perception. And because I remember what it's like to have programs that ran through me and have reactions, but I was at least awake always to the point of going, why am I saying that? Why am I running that program? Why do I feel sad? Why? Like that was always within me. So I was actually like, there are a lot of us that were handed a life where we would be more aware. Like that was assumed, but I think everybody can be aware. But when they're on those base programmings of lower awareness, that's when you see an NPC kind of thing.
So I'm not saying this to be divisive. That isn't what I mean. I just think I need to clarify that. But I think there's different things that are pretending to be human. We'll put it that way. The nature of reality is so big and vast, and Jordan Crowther talks about this idea that it's just a simulation and it's ever expanding, and as soon as we reach the peak of where we are, like extra bits just like materialize into extra layers and extra things kind of come in. But from my own kind of understanding and the own channelings and things that I've done, there are people, and we're calling them people, Lucy, because we're all people, we're all in a human body, so we are in effect all people. But the origins that we come from, some people are born, but the nature of how the soul comes in, I think, is different. I'm not an expert.
I agree there, 100%. Yeah.
So I feel like we've had to chat about this before, haven't we? There's different streams, and like
stream, remember? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So when I've looked at my walk-ins experiences, I've been bringing more of me in, but also, so one of them I had where I brought more of me in, and it was just that I needed to be fortified essentially by a more advanced, we'll say, stream of consciousness that was still related to my same essence. But I've also had something that's in the same group that is co-piloting with me. So it isn't Sam that Sam used to be. It's Sam and another person being Sam. Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%. I agree on streams. Oh, I agree there that there's other entities coming through. And I believe that the lizard people can come through and stream through and run these, elites and be running it energetically, kind of like, not a robot, but kind of like that. But what I don't buy into is that you could rip off the skin and there's a lizard under it, or you could it's not actually a human, it's something, or it's a rope. Some people actually think there's robots. Some people actually think lizards are like the royalty. That's why I was mentioning them. They think like you could rip the mask off the queen and there she was. Like people think that there's actual aliens inside of human suits. I would love that to be true. I would love a magical story, but I just don't think so. I don't think it's possible they've tried to mimic the human face with robots. You can't mimic everything the human does. And
the technology that we've got now isn't necessarily the technology that's available, though, Diana. I'm not being a raging conspiracy theorist, but I'm not taking it off the table. I do think the shapeshifters, absolutely. Tell
me more. I care, and I value your opinion because I'm open to this. I just haven't seen any.
If you look at like Skinwalker Ranch, what are they called? Those things now I forgot. Oh, bloody hell. There's a name for them. And they're meant to be like the shapeshifters as well. And there's lore throughout all of like Native American.
Yeah, the shamans could get into animals and run them.
Yeah, so it's possible. And then if we think about all his mind, then essentially the mind is just consciousness, isn't it? That's just what it's talking about. It's the perception of reality. It's being created through a consciousness stream. Mm-hmm. So if you've got more advanced consciousnesses coming in, they're coming through portals, whatever, because there are portals as well, and I really do believe that they can literally manipulate reality, because then they've got a higher awareness. Basically, they understand how you can tap into and change the fabric of reality, because that's what we're doing. That's where we're going. This is what this new spiritualized human is going to be. We're going to be able to move matter at will, and that's one of the cities, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's yeah, we were talking.
You don't
about
have to agree with me though. That's fine.
No, I was trying to say, we talked about how you could disintegrate someone with your mind, technically, if we really wanted to. So the fact that we could change our position and what we look like, the fact that they had higher technology, I believe it. I believe it's possible one day. I believe it is possible somewhere. It's just if they're using it right here, right now, it's just, I feel like we'd have better evidence. And
yeah,
I'm maybe provoking them to show me, because I do that all the time. Show me something. So many people have all these actual seeing stuff experiences that don't even overly believe in magic. And it's like, here I am. And it's like, show me something.
But you've had so many experiences that have showed you what the nature of reality really is.
Oh, it's true. Energetically, I could see loads. And I've astral walked. I've astral projected. I've done it all etherically. Etherically, I know it's all right there. And it's helping me expand my perceptions and live reality differently. I know about we can manifest, and I could manifest something into happening and pretty quickly, right? It's the finer stuff, like aliens landing on our physical 3D Earth.
And that's the finest stuff. The finest stuff. It's not astral projecting and knowing that the nature of the universe is not what we've been told, and that the body is just this finite experience, but the soul lives on, and there is definitely life after death. I'm talking about the finite stuff, like the bloody aliens.
Yeah, like all that other stuff's assumed. Yeah.
I love that. That just really tickled me. We didn't do much human design, Diana.
Oh, I know, eh? We didn't get much human design done today. That's so, oh my God. We should definitely do this again sometime soon, because I think we're probably out of time.
Yeah. But it's been great. I mean, as always, yeah. We tend to have a good chat.
It's true. I agree. It's definitely been very thought-provoking, and I loved it all. And now I want, let's provoke them. Show us yourselves, skinned alien people.
I'm good. I don't need to see. I believe you exist. Please don't.
That's funny. Okay, well, perfectly put. Thank you so much for being here today, Sam. We would definitely, we will be doing this again on July 2nd if we don't do it sooner. July 2nd, we're doing a whole girls thing, I think, at 10:30 on July 2nd EST, though. And Sam will be there, and there should be a few other girls from our Collective Consciousness group. And yeah, thank you so much for being here. And I'll bid for you to close off, Sam, and let people know where they can find you.
Well, you can't really find me anywhere other than the Metaphysical Fat podcast on YouTube at the moment, because I'm taking a bit of a internet sabbatical, for reasons that I'm not going to go into right now. But yeah, so
the internet is stealing your energy.
I'm in which school? No, I'm kidding. Maybe. So come find to the Metaphysical Fat. We release a new podcast every Friday. You can get Kirsten at Wanderer Awake on Twitter. You can find me at Twitter when I'm back on there and I'm not being siphoned. At Samantha Consciously, and my handle is @artsfantastic_, @arts_fantastic. Yeah, and that's where you can find me.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Sam. Thank you, audience, and we will see you again next time. Goodbye for now.